This video is sponsored by PCBWay. More about this later. Shadows of shadows passing by. It is now 2023, and as always, I'm absorbed with a delicate thought. It is how programming and building stuff has indefinite sensations, to which end creating is an essential. Hardware, when combined with a pleasurable idea, is poetry. Without the idea, it's simply hardware. Without the hardware, or an intriguing idea, color becomes parlor, man becomes carcass, home becomes catacomb, and the dead are but for a moment motionless. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Alan Parsons Project, for lending me some ideas here. But now let's go on with the show. I am addicted to AliExpress. Not only that, you find very strange things on here, you find useful things on here. Normally you only type something like, say, Arduino into your search bar and you get flooded with new and exciting things. Well, not this time, of course, because, this looks a bit boring. But every time I do this, I find new chips, new modules that I can work with. And one of these days, I found this little thing. The world-renowned JQ8400FL-10P. Yep. If you ever heard a self-explaining name, this is one of those. Okay, I'm kidding. What do we have here? This is a little MP3 player. Let me get a good picture here. But not one of those where you have to plug in a SD card. I tend to lose these SD cards, and I'm happy with one that has built-in memory. The clever thing on here is, you see the USB port over here. Plug it into a computer, and it's like a flash drive, a 32 megabit flash drive. Wait there, this is 4 megabyte. So you can't put all your MP3s on there. No, that doesn't work. But for, say, short announcements, that would work. Nice one. Well, okay. Of course I ordered some, as one does. And then I had no idea what to do with them. And they went into the big bin with all the stuff that I have lying around and I'm going to use someday. Back in the days, so about the late Cambrium, when I was working at the University of Düsseldorf, me and the team sat around and we were talking about noises you don't want to hear in your apartment. So say the buzzing of a mosquito, so for example, is a very bad sound to hear. Or floating water suddenly, especially when you own a waterbed. Or if you want to get creepy, of course, heavy breathing somewhere. Ugh. While we were talking about these things, my mind went back to the little MP3 player I had lying around. And there it was. If you would combine this little MP3 player with, say, one of those little radar modules, write a little software that finds movement in the room, and if it detects no movement, it makes a noise at a random interval. And if it detects movement, it stays silent. Yeah, this is something for nightmares. Edgar Allan Poe would be proud of me. That was a moment the cricket was born. Here is the little bugger in all its horrifying glory. And before I continue here, please be aware there are phobias out there. Use this prank only on people you are sure they can stand it. If you have somebody with a real phobia, say about burglars or something, don't use this and use heavy breathing on this. Please don't. Go for the mosquito route. So how do we going to do this? Of course, we need a little microcontroller, and since you guys all know what UPDI is and how to program this, let's go for a ATtiny 412, right? Because we don't need much. We only need to control the little MP3 player. This is done by a serial interface. Then we need one pin for the radar port, so to check if there's movement in the room. And if there's movement in the room, we simply stay silent. And everything else is handled by the little MP3 player. The MP3 player has an audio amplifier on board, so this is not something we need to rebuild. This is already there. And yeah, let's check out the little PCB I made. Here I removed the little MP3 player from the daughter board, and you can see there's not much going on. This is just the ATtiny412. On the backside there are some caps, and this is it. Well, this should be easy. And you can already tell by this highly complex schematic that this takes a lot of effort to do. Well, not really. On the little ATtiny412, PA6 and PA7 become TX and RX if you use a hardware serial on this one. I simply connect them directly to the MP3 module over here. The datasheet somewhere says that we had to use a 1K on the TX line. Well, who am I to ask questions there? The busy pin over here is coming directly from the MP3 player, and it's active high while it's playing an MP3. So I have a really good control here. Are we playing right now, or is it silence? The radar pin over here comes directly from the radar module. What? You never heard of these radar modules? Let me show you. These are the cheap radar modules. These are not the fancy ones that can detect a presence. They only detect motion, but they don't do this in a PRR way, so you don't have this little dome thing. They simply detect a change in the, I don't know how to explain this, frequency of the room, something, the reflections of the room. And as soon as it sees a change in these reflections, it puts out a, yeah, there's movement signal. And you can tell by the price, see, I can get 10 pieces for €3. So they are dirt cheap, yeah. And for this application, they're totally fine. If you want to buy some and you don't have them lying around, just simply search for RCWL0516. You should find them all. The rest of the schematics is, well, not really even worth mentioning. I have some decoupling caps. Well, you put them on just because you do. Radar has a connector over here. The power has a little connector over here, and I use this right for programming over here. UPDI is right on here, and I have a 5-volt input, so I could power this from the GND and power over here, or I can use the little USB connector on the MP3 player. This is what I'm going to do. And I have some speaker connectors down here. Right, let's see the PCB. Yeah, I've chosen a big footprint over here for the speaker terminal, and of course, as one does, it's the wrong way around. It doesn't matter because I'll normally put them on myself, so I'll know how to put them on. And since you saw the real life model already, I don't use these terminals anyways because they're in the way of the MP3 module. You have to mount the MP3 module under this to use these. The little PCB is exactly the same dimension as the MP3 player module. So you simply have one row of pin headers over here, and you can simply solder them directly on, or do this as I did with a pin header and some female headers to plug them together. This is a little PCB in the PCB view, of course, and as always with my projects, you find all the Gerbers, the BOM and the stuff in the big zip file in the video description down there. And of course, this is a sponsored video, and if you want to order your PCBs, you do this at PCB Way. Yeah, it's a smart way to get your PCBs made, and they can even do the assembly for you if you don't feel good with all the little fiddly SMD components. If you downloaded the zip file and now you think, okay, I need this PCB, click quote now. Click the quick order PCB over here. Don't mess around with this stuff. And here you can add your Gerber files. Let's do this. And there's my little board. So everything's here. You can go down here and select a thickness. I normally don't go for 1.6 mil. 1.6 is normally a thing I think it's too thick. I would go for 1 mil. And you know me, of course I need my black PCBs. And in case of the Cricut, the black PCBs are even important because now they're better hidden away. I should stop doing this. If I check over here, it says 5 to 6 days to produce these PCBs. This is because of the black color. If you're going for the standard green, this goes in 24 hours. depending on how fast you need your PCBs, you can select your favorite shipping method over here. And say you're living in the United States and you don't want to pay $20 for just shipping, you can go for, say, AliExpress standard shipping. This takes about, say, 2 to 3 weeks, but it's way, way cheaper than the DHL one. As I said, this depends on how fast do you need your PCBs. So I'll go for the AliExpress shipping, and now I'm down to $9 or something. As I said before, for me, this is a no-brainer. I'll start to doing PCBs really, really early in my process, because with this price tag, this isn't even $10. I can develop faster and I can develop, I think, better. All right, back to the show. All right, let's go to some software. You'll get a complete download as usual as one big file, and there's a complete Arduino IDE included in this download. Why do this? Because I don't have to tell you download this core and maybe this isn't compatible with that and maybe you'll run into something problems with this. This simply works. You plug in your UPDI adapter and you simply flash the machine and it's done. You maybe notice that this Arduino IDE is even older. This is a 1.8.13 version. This was a time when I wrote this. The mega tiny core that is installed in here is a 2.4.2, and if you select a version you can see currently we're at 2.6.10. This works. Update at your own risk. So since this is a few years for me gone by now, let's go through the software and see what I did over there back in the days. Well, let's find out. There's a busy coming in from the MP3 player and it's high while playing. This is a good indication. Radar is on A2, radar silence is 30 seconds. This is 30, 1, 2, 3. So this comes out in seconds. Same for pause low. The lowest value for a pause is 20 seconds or the highest value is 60 seconds. For a real life scenario, I'd say you could expand this. You could go for up to, say, 5 minutes to keep it really creepy. And well, this is something to experiment with. The little MP3 player module has the ability to set the volume level, and you don't want to have your sounds always in the same volume. So maybe there must be someone quieter and some louder. So this is a value that's set random, and these are the this is the window in which this is set. And yeah, there's a library out there for the JQ8400. So, and I was lazy as usual, so I included the library. So they are in state my MP3 object, and I have some globals over here. That is the number of MP3s. I get this back from the MP3 player. We see this in a second. Let's do as the CPU would do. So let's go through the software as if it would run by the CPU. So of course, the first thing we do is setup. So pin mode is radar and busy. Both are inputs. So let's go input. I'll start a serial port over here. Yeah, this is all you need to do on an 80 Tiny. This is really, really good done. And yeah, I use 9,600 baud. I know this is strange because I'm normally 115, 200, but the MP3 player needs 9,600 baud. This serial port goes directly to the MP3 player. And by the way, you wouldn't need the library because this is a simple thing. You simply cobble together some bytes and you're done. But I love to do these things really easy. So I can reset the MP3 player, set the source to build in, and give me the number of MP3s we have on the card. Easy peasy. The loop is a bit strange, and yeah, it took me a moment to realize what I did there. But this is a really nice example of getting out of a loop. There are a lot of states in here that needs to stop the MP3, not to play it. To play it is easy, but there are some cases where need to stop the MP3. So this is how this is done. So we have some statics over here, of course. Last radar silence, and interval is set to 0, so it starts right away. Yeah, we see this in a second. And we have the thing, async loop last time. This is not very good named, but I keep it this way because I'm too lazy right now. And we see when this gets set, and there's a static bowl that sends the stop command to high. So there's a stop right now. Let's see when this happens. If you're not familiar with C++ and you're wondering what the static thing over here does, Normally, a variable is reset every time a function runs. If you put a static in front of them, it keeps its value. So if loop runs next time, last radar silence will have the same value as we set it in here. So think of these variables as something like a global without being a global. So the first if that we run in here is a digital read of radar. And this is motion detection. So if the motion is detected, this is important, we need to get silent because we don't want to be detected. So if the radar comes on, we put in last millis to the last radar, we send a stop command to the MP3 player, and we send stop command to low, so we know that we did send a stop command. We don't want to do this all the time. You see, every time we detect radar, this would send a stop command. And we don't want to do this. We only want to do this once. So stop command must be high, set over here. If it's not high, this if isn't called. So this is only called once while the radar is high. The last radar is always updated because this runs while radar is high. The next three if statements over here are get out of cards. So if you're in the loop and you do a return, you simply leave the loop. But since it's a loop, and the loop, runs all the time, return just starts the loop all over again. So if I do a return, you can think of this as a get out of loop over here. So every return we see over here leaves loop and start at the beginning again. And there are three cases when we need to leave the loop. For once, if last radar is set over here, and we do this up here, last radar equals millis. So this over here will stay silent as long as radar silence is bigger than the millis minus last radar. So we'll set the async loop time to millis. Yeah, bear with me on this. This is a really mind-twisting thing. And then we get out of here. Async loop time comes up in the next one. In the second if statement, we ask, is the interval that we set to 0 at the start, is this already past the async loop time? And if not, this is a variable pause between MP3s, and we see this interval gets reset in a minute. The third case to get out of here is if digital read is busy, because busy says I'm still playing MP3s, so I'll just put the current minute into async loop time. This is the async loop time from here. So this gets advanced every time we get down here because we see, oh, we're still playing an MP3, so we don't need to do anything else. We just advance the async loop time because next time we want to do this, the interval over here will have changed. If we get to this point, it gets easier, I promise. If we get to this point, we know that we can send a stop command next time because this runs through all the exit clauses over here. And if it gets over here, we'll be sure next time that we send a stop command, this can get high. We need to pick an MP3 file over here. This is pick. And this do while loop over here gets a random number and compares it to the current file index number, so what we already played. And this way, we don't play a MP3 two times, so you have at least two MP3s on your MP3 player. Yeah, maybe more. We set the volume of the MP3, blah, blah, blah. I said this is volume min and volume max. We set what MP3 we want to play over here. And then we set interval. Yep, the interval from up there to something between pause low and pause high. This gives me a variable pause between the MP3s. Yeah, and just for good measure, async loop last time, 2 millis, and Bob's your uncle. Again, this Bob guy, whoever this is. And man, this is twisted code. I have no idea what I was on when I wrote this, but nifty. So, want to see this all in function? Well, let's get over and feed the MP3 player, right? But before you can start scaring people, you need to, of course, upload some MP3 files to the little device. I've connected mine over here, a fresh one, and you see this USB drive over here. Yeah, it's German encrypted, I know. Has 4 megabytes of space left, so not really much. If you get a new one, you find probably these MP3 on here, and I play one here right now. I hope this isn't a copyright strike. Okay.
99吉祥
And I really hope this wasn't the lady telling me, help, help, I'm held captured in a chip factory somewhere in China. And yeah, we get rid of these now. So I added a few nice ones here, and I remember we had loads of fun recording these back in the university. And yeah, this now takes up about, yeah, not even 2 megs. So we're fine there. We could put in more on there. And there's short clips, so you see, you don't need to rename them. You simply can leave them on there, and they will be played. So here's my little contribution to your Halloween this year. If you want to build this, go over to PCB Ways. You know what to do there. Thanks for PCB Ways for sponsoring this video. It's always a pleasure to work with these guys. And you guys over there, have fun out there, doing a nice prank. And yeah, I think there's some noise going on in the background. Now I have to check where this noise is coming from.